Welcome to Williams' new West to East collection, which offers an interesting take on the rise of China and Asia in the global economy. The series is told through the eyes of the chef and incorporates Williams' signature cook's style. For many centuries, the West, namely the Americas, Europe, and Australasia, has been the dominant force in global trade. However, in recent years, the East, principally China, has seen high levels of economic growth. As the East rises, the West becomes over-reliant on their Orient friends. Many believe at its own cost. Williams' West to East collection offers a starting point for discussion on the transfer of global power from the USA to China. In this series, William explores how consumerism has contributed to this tilt in power. Each cook's painting is open to further interpretation and discussion, but in the accompanying text we offer a starting point and clues for you to understand the paintings with reference to consumerism and the shift in global power. The West to East paintings are available as an entire collection from the website www.paintingcooks.com. In many ways, Angry Chinese Cook is the centerpiece of Williams' West to East collection. The painting clearly depicts an Asian chef chasing a Western chef. The Asian man wears an Eastern-style straw hat. His chef's whites are similar to an Asian tunic, and his trousers are red to signify China. Whereas the Western-style man wears a more familiar Western chef's outfit, with a theatrical tall chef's hat, fitted white cook's top and blue trousers to signify the USA. In the painting, it is clear that the Eastern man is wielding his cleaver towards the Western chef. Interestingly, the Eastern man is looking back. His eyes are not on his immediate chaser, but in the distance to stage left. Possibly there are more people chasing him, perhaps a larger pack. The painting is a metaphor for the East chasing the West, for China making claim to the dominance of superpower status at the expense of the West. A more obvious way to think of this is in the role of commerce. Simply replace the Chinese cook with the company Alibaba and replace the Western chef with Amazon, then the true meaning of the picture becomes more relevant. Replace the Eastern chef with Tencent and the Western chef with Facebook or Disney, and the painting tells a different story. Likewise, if you replace the Eastern chef with Baidu and the Western chef with Google, the painting makes even more sense. Whatever the time, whatever the company, this story will hold true for centuries to come. Whilst our attention in the painting is focused on the two chefs, it's hard to miss the tall, giant man sat in the distance. Why is he there? He's there because he has to be there, says the artist. He's there to make us think. But in this painting, he is less noticeable than in other of Williams' paintings. Almost unnoticeable, almost the elephant in the room. Could that elephant be the unspeakable, that the US is losing its global dominance to the East? These are clues for you to discuss the painting. In Force-Fed, our attention is drawn to two Western-looking cooks who are trying to force-feed the man in blue. Possibly they're trying to force-feed cake to the man in the same way Western society force-feeds consumerism into our lives. Does the man in blue need more cake? Who is the man in blue? Is he you, the consumer? Are you being force-fed products? Are you being bombarded with marketing messages? Do you need more stuff in your life? These are the themes the artist wants us to consider. Also in the painting are two standing men dressed in the colours of red, white and blue. The colours of the US, of France, of the UK, of the consumer-driven West. You'll notice these two men are set further back than the cooks in the near ground and are looking into the distance, to the east perhaps. Do they know what is coming in the future? Or perhaps who is coming in the future? China? Chinese brands? Could these two men represent Western companies who are looking onto the horizon at Chinese competitors expanding into the West? The familiar big man sits in the middle of the picture, making us think. What should we think about? Perhaps our own appetite for consumerism, possibly where our goods come from, maybe the impact of consumerism on our own and China's lives and society as a whole. The Red Table is another highly significant painting in Williams' West to East series. In the painting, you can see two Western chefs standing face to face over a red table with a cupcake resting between them. Their conversation is quite animated, and it appears the cupcake is relevant to their discussion. Another chef is carrying a cupcake on a plate and exiting the picture to stage right, possibly taking it to a customer. In Williams' world, the cupcake signifies consumerism, and the painting suggests that the Western chefs are discussing a consumer product. Interestingly, the chefs are resting upon a red table. In the painting, this red table signifies China, or the East. The red table is supporting the Western chefs and the cupcake, in the same way Chinese businesses support Western businesses. Just think of how the Chinese manufacturing company Foxconn supports Apple by making phones and computers for them. The West heavily relies on the support of the East for their manufacturing and assembly. This painting gives a nod to that intertwined relationship. The Go-Between is one of Williams' most intriguing works in the West to East collection, full of metaphor and symbolism. In the painting, we see two Western-looking chefs clearly having a heated argument, almost coming to blows with their rolling pins. Stood between them is the Go-Between, trying to break up the fight. To the left of the painting is an Eastern-looking man wearing an Eastern straw hat, looking on at the fight. Viewed through the theme of West to East, we can interpret the painting as a take on US versus China trade. If we replace the two fighting Western chefs with two large US companies competing for market share, the picture comes into focus. For example, the two chefs could represent Apple and Google, or Disney and Netflix, two leading companies fighting for customers for market share. The go-between sits in the middle, trying to calm the waters. Perhaps the go-between is the consumer, undecided how to spend their hard-earned money. Perhaps the go-between is the regulator, trying to regulate monopolistic markets. All the time, the Eastern man waits patiently in the wings, watching as Western chefs or Western companies fight between themselves. The Eastern man, or companies, bide their time looking for the right opportunity to enter the US and Western markets. The Death of Cooking is another important work of art by William Balthazar Rose. The artwork could quite easily be called The Rise of Consumerism, as it picks up on some of Williams' recurrent themes of consumerism and East versus West. The painting takes its initial inspiration from the 16th century classic, The Death of Socrates. As always, William gives his own interpretation through the lens of the cook. In this painting, we see two cooks standing to the right of the cupcake. One of them is seemingly bowing to the cupcake. We know from previous paintings that William considers the cupcake to embody consumerism, a ready-made packaged product, a product which encapsulates his time living in the USA. In The Death of Cooking, the chefs are saying to the cupcake, "You win. We are great cooks, but consumerism wins. The consumer, the customer, would prefer an instant ready meal rather than enjoy the food we cook for you. Fast food wins over slow food." Note how the cooks have placed the cupcake on the floor in disgust. Good food should never be placed on the floor. But do the chefs consider the cupcake to be good food? It may as well be a packet of instant noodles which can be bought from a vending machine for $1. Why is one cook pointing to the sky? A similar pose can be seen in the original painting of The Death of Socrates. And perhaps the chef is asking why God allowed this to happen. How did fast food and consumerism win over real cooking with real ingredients? An interesting side to this painting is the Eastern-looking man stood behind the two chefs. This possibly refers to the East versus West tension William often refers to, USA versus China. In the paintings, the Eastern man in the triangle straw hat represents China. He is watching on as consumerism led by the US first defeats the talents of the chef. The Eastern man is waiting, biding his time, waiting to take over from America as China seeks to become the dominant force in global consumerism. The omnipresent big man is there to make us think about the consequences of the tilt in trade from west to east. In summary, West to East is an important collection of paintings by William Balthazar Rose, which explores the themes of consumerism and the rise of the East to the detriment of the West. These paintings are told through the lens of the cook and hint at the tilt of power towards China. The paintings are available as an entire collection from the website www.paintingcooks.com.